Oh, it's creepy Halloween. Is it creepy 'cause it's Halloween? I think it's creepy 'cause it's Halloween. Oh, it's super creepy 'cause it's Halloween. It's Halloween time, everybody. Oops, wrong one. Internet! What's going on, Internet? How you doing? What's happening today? It's a lovely middle of the week. Happy Halloween to everybody out there who's into Halloween. If you're not into Halloween, then happy Halloween to you. Because it's Halloween, right? Well, happy Halloween to everybody that is out there in the world. Let's check in with the chat real quick and see who's here. 54 Punchy, first to the chat today. Rocky's Rocky G Bear. Oof Deloriac Peterson, what's up? It's Nature Man, Alyssa Bentley. Wondering if anyone has any awesome Halloween plans. I'm going to be here trying to aquascape, make dinner, and answer the door all at the same time. That is my lovely Halloween plans for today. As you guys know, I'm about 100 million years old, so I'm not going to go trick-or-treating. I'm going to save my trick-or-treating power for later when I'll get to take our baby daughter trick-or-treating. You know what I mean? So I got to gear up for that over the next couple years. So I'm going to save my Halloween creativity for that because, boy, howdy, because it'd be the trifecta, because it'd be me, Victoria, and our lovely daughter, who has not arrived yet, but will be here soon. And all three of us can go. And I'm going to try and do three-piece, what do you call it? Costumes. We got to figure out three-piece costumes for the future. So I believe that the lovely Victoria is going to be dressing up as some kind of pregnant witch. a witch with a baby, I think. I'm not 100% sure. She always kind of, surprises me on Halloween with her stuff. She loves Halloween. I like Halloween, Me being a sober guy, I'm almost it'll be 5 years sober coming up here pretty soon. Me being a sober guy, I don't go out to the big old parties or any of that stuff anymore. That is a thing of the past that I don't participate in, and that's just my way. I don't know that I ever really enjoyed it that much anyhow, because it seemed like even when you go out on Halloween, there's so many people are just so uncomfortable because they're in like some crazy outfit that just does not work. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't work as an actual functional outfit. You know what I mean? So that was always one thing that always kind of cracked me up, is that people always seem to have been losing so many of the things that was supposed to just be part of their costume, and it's like, oh man, it's made out of cardboard and it fell apart, and now my outfit makes no sense. Whereas me, I like to wear pants and a shirt. That's just kind of my thing. It's what I like to do. So, it's one of those things that, one of those things. I don't know. Baby Aquarium checking in, saying I need to join you on that sober life. Yeah, I would recommend it to anybody out there. If you feel like something strange is going on in your life and you maybe need to make a change, I guess maybe you could use me as an example. Maybe. Or maybe somebody else you could use as an example. But I guess I would say that, over the past 4 3/4 years or whatever, my life has definitely gone through a lot of changes. A lot of positive things have happened. Life is still hard sometimes. It's still a nightmare, I guess a real minor thing to put out there would be that someone stole our Amazon package off the porch yesterday. I know this is first world problems. Somebody stole our package of baby sheets and plumbing parts. I had some plumbing parts on order, which honestly, that was what today's video portion was going to be about. But these just showed up like 10 minutes ago. So obviously I couldn't really do the, I couldn't necessarily do the video on that because it was only 10 minutes ago, you know, when they actually showed up. So I guess I'm just going to show them to you guys. If you guys are watching on the video, if you're just listening in, these are actually, I don't know if these are Schedule 80 or Schedule 40 PVC. It's a gate valve. So it's a little bit different than what you would normally see in aquarium use, unless you're like really into reef, the reef portion of the hobby. You will see gate valves like this. Now, the difference between this and a ball valve is, as you can see, you can make really minor adjustments. You see that gate inside there? That's the part where, you know, it's like you turn the knob here, it opens and closes the gate. Hence why it's called a gate valve. These are super useful for the overflow portion on the overflow portion on your aquarium. So the overflow, and it goes to the siphon, and you want to set the siphon at a certain speed. That's where these come in super handy. Now, the big problem is that almost every big box store does not carry these, unless they carry them in brass, which I think, as most people would understand, brass is not the best thing to add to an aquarium plumbing. It might work. It might work well. There's just so many unions and things that you have to go through. I really wouldn't advise it. And there's a potential for some weird interactions with the constantly getting fish tank water on them, basically. You know what I mean? Not to say that anybody's aquarium out there is dirty, but it's a little bit dirtier than, chlorine coated water. You know what I mean? As Massarelli says, gate valves are for controlling flow. Ball valve would be for a straight shutoff. Yeah, the downside is that you do have to pop onto Amazon or something like that to order these up, because if you go to Home Depot or Lowe's or any of those spots, they just don't have them. And I guess I should be a good narrator here and give you guys a link so that you could possibly look it up if you needed to. Why are the links like 1,000,000 miles long today? What is the deal? Huh. That is ridiculous. Sorry, guys. I got to shorten this link down. It's next level super long, and I don't know why. So we got to go over here to Bitly and get ourselves a custom URL shortening action. There we go. There. Now we have a good one there. Yeah, there's a good link right there in case anybody's like, I can't find it on Amazon. I'm confused. There's a link right there. You can click through there. It'll take it to you, and you'll be like, oh, look, I'm at Amazon. I've been here before. And then you'll be like, hey, I can order that or not. Either way, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, this is literally what I'm talking about right now. Fish Tropic says they suck. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but they just don't carry these in big box stores. They just, for whatever reason, the only reason that I've ever been given is that, man, we would never sell those if we had them. I guess there's just not a big enough demand for it, but I also feel like it shouldn't be that big of a deal to just have like 4 of them on the shelf. It just shouldn't, So for that rando guy like me that comes wandering in and is like, dude, I need a gate valve. And they're like, we've got 2 of them. Is that enough? And I'd be like, I'll make 2 work. I want 5. And they'll be like, yeah, we'll order more, I guess, But either way, they're not at the big box stores, so you do have to actually order them up. And I guess the whole reason I brought this up was because that was what today's video is going to be about. But that got stolen off of my porch. And, if that's the lowest of the low that I have today, being a sober guy, I guess is the whole reason I brought that up. If that's the lowest of the low that I got to deal with today, that is not even remotely close to the crazy lows and highs I used to deal with on a regular basis in my life. And boy, howdy, I'd like to tell you, if I know that there's some people out there that may or may not have like there are people out there that have depression. I'm probably one of those guys too. But my life used to go like this. It used to look like that crazy, what is it? It looks like that crazy chart on, I guess like in those 1950s movies when they would try to dial in the sound and they had that wavelength thing going all bonkers like this. That's kind of how my life used to be. Now my life is more just like a little bit like this. Some bumps in the ocean, not a big deal. So I would say that if anybody out there is considering a change, go for it. There's so many groups out there now that I may or may not be affiliated with. They may or may not get mad that if I say I'm affiliated with them or whatever, you know what I mean? Whether it be Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, Smart Recovery is one that may or may not be different for some other people. But I would also consider that not only are there groups like that, there are also groups that you could go to, and essentially they're just anonymous groups that you could go to, and it's like free therapy, basically. I mean, if you think about it, there are a lot of people out there spending $300 an hour for therapy sessions, right? And I know recently a bunch of like big time YouTubers got they were like endorsing some kind of like online therapy thing. I don't know, and I'm not going to name names or name the company name or anything like that, but I guess the big selling point was like, oh, it's only $100 an hour. Well, I'll tell you this much. When I go to if I do attend AA meetings, when I go to an AA meeting, it's free. They normally have cookies and some coffee. So, I mean, you compare that to $100 an hour or $300 an hour, it's just kind of one of those deals. Lena Martins just got super upset because her post is getting bumped from people just saying hi. She's out of here. Sorry. I hate to hear that. I hate to hear somebody's feelings getting hurt. But that's what a lot of this show is about, is answering questions and stuff like that. Normally the first 15 minutes, I'm kind of just talking about whatever. So hold tight. This is a long format show, and I apologize if you feel like people are bumping you out, but we will get to reading the chat. Sometimes I trail off and get, wandering in my mind, and we will definitely get to your question. And I guess I probably should have just answered your question, but I got to scroll up and go find it. So I figured I would talk about something while I go find your question. Okay, oh, there it is. Help. I have tiny parasites in my planted no-fish aquarium. Okay, typically what those would be is some planaria. You could definitely do a Google image search and be like, what? And go through and look through a lot of those. There will be a lot of very specific pictures and things. You can definitely compare those pictures versus what you have, right? Then you can kind of piecemeal your way back to find that out. Now, if you actually have a planted aquarium that doesn't have any fish in it, I often end up with planaria at the beginning of the setup of the tank, because like I don't normally add fish for months at a time. When I do set up a new aquarium, it's normally quite a long timeline. And if you're using a substrate like I use Fluval stratum quite a bit, and Fluval stratum is going to have some nutrients in it. It is going to have some, it definitely is going to have some ammonia and things like that will help things cycle. But it will be kind of releasing stuff into the water column that allows planaria to grow sometimes, depending on what your setup is or how you went about doing it. Planaria is typically an affect of overfeeding. So that would be normally the first thing that I would mention if you did have planaria, to stop feeding as much, because it's normally just leftover food. With a planted tank like that, I would just kind of work on doing your water changes a little bit. I would up the frequency, and basically when you do water changes, kind of suck up a lot of them and get them out of there as much as you can. And get those out of there, basically. Just get those manually for a certain amount of time, but that's probably going to be the biggest thing, is that you do have some excess nutrients in there, allowing them to grow. So I would really have to kind of take a specific look at your setup to really figure out what it is, but typically it's overfeeding is normally a problem, and then the other side of it is that you could just have a bunch of extra nutrients in there. So that's just normally the reason that planaria show up at all. I noticed somebody in the chat said it might be detritus worms. That could definitely be the case too, but those typically come along with just extra stuff, basically extra waste and things being broken down, and giving them a chance to be broken down. Carlo Tropics Fish, the app I listen to the podcast for Aquarium Co-op and The Real Fish Talk is all there. Why can't I find these episodes there? This channel is my channel. This is a channel that I've been on for 10 years now. I think we're coming up on 11 years. Oh my gosh, so old. This is my own channel. The Real Fish Talk was with Corey, so he actually puts The Real Fish Talk up on his app. We have some lovely fans here, Dan and Alvin, who actually post these episodes up on Podbean, so you guys can find that on there. I don't necessarily have the they don't necessarily have, or it's on Podbean, and then I don't know where my brain went. What happened to my brain? Hold on. So these episodes are up on Podbean in a separate app, and I don't have the link handy right now because I suck. Sorry about that. But those guys will hopefully post it up for you, and maybe you can search it out on Podbean. So Podbean would probably be the easiest way to go find it. Caleb Hannah is asking at Corvus, so for a long time you've talked about getting some unique Caridina. Are you any closer to that happening? If so, details please. Yes, I actually do happen to have some pretty specific Caridina shrimp in my possession at this point. I haven't made a video for them because I'm pretty much 100%. Oh, there's Alvin. There's Mr. Alejo posted it right there. Oh, and Candy posted it. Okay, there we go. Yes, I do have some very specific Caridina shrimp in my possession. I haven't made a video about them, which I guess the easiest way to explain why I haven't made a video about them is they are in a giant tank, and I'm really hoping, they're basically going through the acclimation process right now. And I will be moving some of them to one of the new 120s when that comes down. But it's really one of those things that I had to get them into my possession, make sure that they're healthy, kind of go through all that system. I have filmed some of it. I do hope to have more in-depth videos. Some of the videos seem to be getting better, I think. Right? I try to have more in-depth videos for you guys, and it just really, me just opening a bag and being like, yeah, there's shrimp in my tank, just seemed like not a great video. So, those videos will be kind of fleshed out with giving you guys the whole setup, all of that kind of stuff, show you guys equipment, like things like this gate valve where you're like, what? He never really didn't talk too much about that gate valve, and now I'm super confused. Well, hello, we are talking about them today, and I do want to kind of slide into frame here something else we're going to talk about here in a little bit. I don't know if anybody can see this bottom corner down here. What? Got a new CO2 bit over here, which I'll obviously be making a better video out of than just being here, but I just wanted to give those guys a little props, bright and shiny. But as mentioned today, I wanted to talk a little bit about the hardscape, and one of the things that I consider to be one of the most difficult part of the aquascape, doing the plants, is the easy part for me. Honestly, I've spent I've spent too much of my time reading about plants and nerding out about plants and all that kind of stuff, when it comes down to dealing with plants, and I'm just going to keep saying the word plants over and over again, plants. Okay, we got it out of our system, right? I think we did. But I've been dealing with that kind of stuff so much and reading so much about that kind of stuff that it's almost second nature at this point. Like planting the aquarium, pretty easy. That's pretty easy. But building a fancy, sort of very specific hardscape, really, I find that to be kind of the hardest part. And the hardest part of that is to really pick what it is you're going to make it out of. Because I've realistically in the past, if I look it up, like what was the most expensive part, and it's doing things like having to buy, like, oh, this rock right here was $40. You know what I mean? Spending a lot of money on hardscape was always kind of like the hardest thing to do. And naturally, we almost always go with the attitude of like, well, maybe there's like a free way that I could do it. Like maybe I could just dig up some dirt in my backyard and like if I could just do that, it would be way easier to do my aquarium, which there is a way to do that. It's called the Wallstad method. You should definitely look up her book and definitely read the Wallstad method. It's a great read. Let me see if I can find a link for. Oh, where did it go? Okay, hold on. I should have this. This should be highlighted. You know what I mean? Like I should have this highlighted. Wallstad method in books. There it is. Oh, it's been reprinted. Oh my gosh. It's been reprinted. Oh, and you can get it on the Kindle for $12. Look at that. That's awesome. Actually, I might even just get that. What is with these giant links? What are you doing, Amazon? All right, fine. I'll do it for you. I'll make you. I ain't afraid. I ain't afraid, Amazon. I ain't afraid to make your links short. I know how to do it. All right. So there's a link to the Wallstad method in case anybody wants to, and they're like, what are you talking about? And you're like, I'm super confused. And I don't know why I'm making this voice. I don't know. Right? Just because it's spooky. Because it's spooky Halloween. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can click that link, take it over to Amazon, you'll be like, oh, look at that. That's who actually wrote the book on the ecology of the planet Aquarium. You darn right. You darn right, Diana Wallstad. I got a great opportunity to meet her, and I didn't. Whoops. I probably should have. Probably would have been awesome. Anyhow, back to what I was talking about. What was I talking about? Oh, hardscape and how costly it is. Now, I've figured something out that may help somebody. It might not help anybody. And I want to make sure I get the right link for this, just in case. I don't even know if I can get this one online. Yeah, well, okay, so this one's made by the same company, I think. No? Yes. Okay. Now, anyhow, oh, you stupid thing. Why is this not working? Welcome to my life. Welcome to my life. Oh, here it is. Here's the right one. Okay. Give me my link. Oh, it made a giant link again. I'm trying to get all these links out of the way so that I don't have to really talk about links anymore. Okay. Now, here's the big thing that I have found to save a lot of money when it comes to your hardscape. Now, this one's called Falls Foam, okay? And then the one that I linked is slightly different, but it's essentially the exact same thing. It's just in a different can. So it's a singular cellular product. It's a, what is it? Single cell foam. This is not a 2-component because it's in one can. So it's actually like really, really, really easy to use. It's spray foam. I think a lot of people have used the probably the green kind, the orange kind, the yellow kind of it's like for filling cracks and stuff like that. Spray foam. You probably use this on your garage or something like that. And I'm sure you guys have used that. Now, there's actually a kind that is water safe. The other kinds are not water safe. I will warn you guys, you do have to get the specific water safe kind. Now, I lucked out because here's the funny thing. I went to a store to find this, the gate valve. I went to a pond supply store, you guys. There's literally a pond supply store 15 minutes from my house. It's not very far. I mean, I could probably walk there, but you have to drive like this really weird way. But it's probably like 15 minutes from my house. I went to the pond store because I wanted to just get a couple of gate valves so that I could make a super cool YouTube video, right, about adding the plumbing and to the super expensive Aquarius. And I want to make sure that the plumbing is perfect before I do anything else, blah, 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 blah. Long story short, they were like, we don't have those gate valves, so we could order them in. Now, I got these ones off of Amazon for like $11.99 or $12.99 or something like that, and they wanted $38 a piece. And I was like, man, you all tripping, man. Why would I give you all that money, my bro? Well, apparently it's for theft protection because one of them did get stolen, but luckily I have enough to do the work I got to do. So, what is Bentley doing? Where are we going here? Let's see. Caradinia. I don't see anything. Oh, sorry. I'm trying to catch up with the chat a little bit. Okay. Anyhow, so I went to that store. They didn't have it, what I wanted. But here's the funny thing. I was like, hey, do you guys have the falls foam? And the guy was like, yeah, it's right over here. Which is odd because I was like, so you guys have all these plumbing parts, but you don't have gate valves, which is weird. But you have all of these plumbing parts, but you do have the spray foam, right? So super weird. But I think that this is probably going to be, for a lot of people out there, this will definitely be the game changer to be able to build your aquascape up a lot bigger than our wallets could really afford. Let's be honest here. If you go buy a bunch of Sierra Stone and you drop, $400 or something on Sierra Stone, you're like, I don't have any money left to eat food. But I mean, if you can get a couple of cans of this for like $12 and really build stuff up and use a lot of those the small rock pieces and stuff to do a lot of accent work and build in your driftwood the way that you want it. And I'm definitely going to be trying out a couple of other things, mainly because I'll be saving a little bit of money because the Aquarium Co-op hooked up his this CO2 action right here, and everybody wants to know what's inside the box, so I will let you know what is inside the box. This is just a business card, very interesting, and brand new regulator, only been used a couple. Okay, it's not brand new. It's been slightly used, which is fine. I'm not worried about that. A brand new CO2 regulator. I'm going to be testing this out versus the Milwaukee one that I have. And then I have a... so I bought a Milwaukee one a while ago. So I'm going to test it out versus that. And then I'm going to test it against the... gosh, what's the name of the other one that I use? The main one that I use. So one of the big differences with these is that instead of having that 6-way splitter, I'll actually be able to stack the bubble counters like this instead of having to go with a 6-way splitter, because you do typically end up with a little bit of differences in pressure if you are going with that 6-way splitter. I have to hardline everything in, which does work great on if I'm feeding them into the what's the name of it? What's the name of it? What? Hold on. What's that? What do you call it? Hold on. CO2. What's the name? Well, basically the CO2 diffuser. I don't know. Reactor. There we go. What's wrong with my brain? So I'm going to be trying the reactor against a diffuser. And I'm going to be trying this CO2 unit versus some of the cheaper models, which the cheaper model that I was using has gotten more expensive. So I think that they're kind of like right in the same price range, whereas the CO2 Art one just seems like a little bit nicer. And obviously I'll do like a feature video on this to let you guys know how to set it up, like what to do in it, or what to do with it, and what to utilize it. I just was super excited and wanted to put the box back here because super generous and super awesome. And it's awesome. And I'll be honest with you guys, this is like, getting a new regulator is super weird because you just kind of want to like just hang out with it and kind of play with it and just be like, oh, wow, you're so pretty. And then eventually you put it on a tank and stick it under your thing and then forget about it for months and months on end. And then you don't go back until it's like, oh, man, that thing's all dusty. Yeah, so I'm kind of excited right now while it's all super clean and not hiding out underneath my it's not hiding out underneath my my aquarium stands or anything like that. So we shall see how it comes along, but I'll definitely be testing all those out and of course give you guys my, I don't even know if you call it a review. It's probably not even a review. It's probably just like, hey man, this works and this works. I guess maybe if you like the green one, go with the green one, you know, the green. I don't know. Because I really haven't had any problems. I haven't had any problems with CO2 regulators from like even the cheaper Milwaukee ones for, I would say, the last 4 or 5 years. The early Milwaukee CO2 regulators were a nightmare. And I would 100% tell people that, like, yeah, I don't know. If you find like an old one, I wouldn't get it because they had a ton of problems, especially like with some of their interior seals would freeze up and crack. And that kind of stuff. So that definitely was a nightmare for quite a while. But I would say over the last 4 or 5 years that I haven't really seen problems with them. I have seen a lot of, unfortunately, I've seen a lot of bad reviews on the Aquatech ones, and I haven't personally had a lot of problems with mine. You know, it's like somebody right here, it's like it was working fine, and then it flooded the tank with CO2. So, somebody said it worked fine for a year. Then at some point, it just flooded his tank with CO2 and killing many fish, which I don't even understand how. I mean, I understand that you could gas your fish, but I will remind people that if you are injecting CO2 into your aquarium, as long as you're oxygenating, I don't understand how you gas your fish off. I just don't get it because CO2 levels in water, right? Let me check. In water, let me check what it is. How many parts per million is Right, so you can obviously you can crash your pH, and that would be the biggest thing that you could do, but in order to get to like air is 400 parts per million, right? I think we're at, let me see, ppm CO2 air. Let's just put that in. Earth's CO2 is currently at 405 parts per million, which, you know, a lot of scientists and stuff said if we get past the 400 mark, it's not going to be that great. Oh, as of April, we're at 410 parts per million. Whoa! But anyhow, that's the typical air quality. Now, the biggest thing you could do is possibly have a gigantic pH swing with having added the CO2 to your water. But as long as you're like oxygenating, it's not going to be the CO2 that like suffocates your fish. You could have, like I said, you could have a massive pH swing. That could happen, which definitely can certainly affect your fish if that were the case. But I've never found to be able to get to the parts per million where it's really going to affect anything, because I'm pretty regularly oxygenating my my aquarium, which is part of what I'm working on to get my plumbing to do. Because so like on my 240-gallon aquarium, I have like essentially a waterfall that's doing the oxygenating in that tank for me. So I'm basically oxygenating the water before it hits my biological, filtration, all the ceramic rings and stuff, so that all the bacteria on the ceramic rings and that kind of stuff has a lot of ability to grow because it has a higher level of oxygen right there. And so I'm trying to figure out, because I've been building CO2 reactors, I'm trying to figure out how to build essentially an O2 reactor that is just going to utilize the air. I've got a few ideas. A few things have worked. A few things have definitely not worked. But what I want to be able to do is eliminate the sound of oxygenating the water from coming down from the tank up above. That has continually been a problem, and that's what I want to eliminate. But I also want to eliminate the possibility of, not adding oxygen, but just kind of, counting on that waterfall to do it for me. So I'm basically building something that everybody can do. And that's where my mind is at right now, is like, okay, there's some weird stuff that I could build, but I need to make stuff that other people could build, that maybe don't build, plumbing stuff all the time. You know what I mean? Somebody could just like, hey, I want to try that on my aquarium thing. And are not freaked out about being able to do it. JD says, I'm guessing that if you dump the tank with CO2, it displaces all of the air at the surface of the water, and there will be no O2 exchange on the surface of the tank. Well, the oxygen exchange that is going to happen between the air and the water, that's always going to be happening. That's where the oxygen exchange is going to happen, is where the water meets the air. So, I don't know. I have gassed my tanks, as people would say. I've had total regulator fails and stuff like that, where just 100% CO2 has just been blasting into the aquarium, and I have not had that problem. And I think the main thing is, from what I've looked into, is that as long as you have a good oxygen saturation, right? So as long as you have enough oxygen, you could just keep stepping up. You could just keep stepping up completely to, I guess, well, I mean, you obviously couldn't go to 100%, but like, let's say if you had 51% and 49%, it would be enough. Obviously, that doesn't make any sense, but you get what I mean. As long as you are stepping up the oxygen, right, you could still be stepping up your CO2. And, from my experience, that I don't like, okay, so here's the big thing. Like, I haven't done lab tests and stuff like that, where we're putting everything under a microscope and that kind of stuff. So we don't necessarily have, like, a peer-studied review. There are peer-studied reviews out there of CO2 and oxygen relation that I definitely am reading on, and just continuing to keep working on, essentially utilizing other people's, other companies' research. Because if it's out there, I'm going to try and gather that information as much as I can. And there hasn't been anything that says, there hasn't been anything to the contrary of that. If you just elevate CO2 level, or that if you elevate CO2 levels and O2 levels, there's any problem. There just hasn't been any problem as far as fish goes or mice go or anything like that. So as long as, because I think, most of our air, first of all, is nitrogen. And let's double check before we, what? Hold on. What? Here we go. Let me double check before I say something like, "Well, it's 40% nitrogen," and then people freak out. So it's the air that we're breathing is generally 21%, and this is at sea level, right? Nitrogen is 78%, argon is 1%, and then the trace is all the other stuff, which is even CO2, right? So, if you start to do the math on parts per million, that's where it's like, oh, our CO2 is only 400 parts per million, so that's, what is that? What is that? How much is that as a percent? It's such a small percentage. It's way under the 1%, obviously. So we always have so much air, essentially, to breathe, right? That it is pretty easy to utilize our air here to mix in and keep that O2 level a lot higher than the CO2. So that's one of the big things that I'm working on, and we'll see how it goes. Like I said, all of the research that I've looked up and stuff, we're just going to keep going that direction. And essentially, like what I'm doing is to try and up the oxygen so that I'm trying to keep both very elevated. And, if anybody has seen any kind of, if you've ever seen a reef skimmer before, just how much air that puts into the reef, that's what generally is one of those big things that really helps keep the reef together. Let's see here. All right, we've got a pile up of super chats, so let me grab those real quick. And the first one is from mhowie9. Says he's trick-or-treating and we'll catch up on the replay. Clownfish will probably hatch tonight. I'm super excited about his clownfish, and we actually will be going to the Patreon questions here and in just a minute, because I want to get to answering those. That's something I want to do. And we've got a $5 super chat from Jay Wilson with nothing on it. He's probably just saying hi. Well, thank you, Jay. Good to see you. I see Twin Cities Guppies. Jeffro is here. John Bedker. I mean, there's like just a whole bunch of people here. What's up, dudes? What are y'all doing? But we've got a $20 super chat from Ginger Graves. Woo, on Halloween. Going wild. Neons, Corys, Dwarf Rainbows, Guppies, quarantined in the same tank. The Corys dead within 24 hours. Water change plus general cure. 48 hours later, more dead. Water change 24 hours later and more dead. Guppies not affected. Kanamycin, I'm not really sure what that is. Let me check out what that is. I gotta see what that is. From the drug bank is that's not. It's an antibiotic. So okay, and I don't know that I've ever used the it's probably kanamycin or something like that. I don't know. I've never used that personally. And is not a first-line treatment, is usually used by mouth, injection into a vein, or injection into a muscle. Ooh. It's recommended for short-term use only, usually 7 to 10 days. So the elimination half-life is 2 hours and 30 minutes. So it is kind of a short-acting antibiotic. So it sounds like kanamycin you probably need to dose on a regular basis instead of just once. But okay. So, now it sounds like you're having a bit of an issue, obviously, with some of the fish are dying in your quarantine tank. It sounds like the Corys have died, and you had them all in the same tank. So you have neons, Corys, dwarf rainbows, and guppies. I guess the water parameters aren't that far off for all 4 of those fish. I mean, somebody will yell at me, I'm sure, but they're not that far off, so that wouldn't be the first thing. The first thing I would look into is the source of where you got your fish, because if these are all wild caught fish and you happen to buy them all at the same time, they really could be you know, they realistically could have come from a bad source. You know what I mean? A bunch of wild fish that could have been in boxes for weeks, and then maybe landed at a local wholesaler, and then quickly got moved to a store, and then got sold, and then you came along and bought them. That could be a problem. So the first thing I would do if this was going on is contact whoever sold you the fish. Obviously, if you're overseas, one of the things that we've definitely learned from having gone overseas this year, like if you're in Germany or something like that, and you get a bunch of fish that are all just dying, they will be 100% on the ball to come help you out. Now, maybe in America, it might be a little bit different. Maybe Canada's a little bit different. They might not be there to help you out. But the first thing that I would do if I had this much death from a new batch of fish that I got would be, oh my, I'm going to contact who I got these from. So maybe you got them from a hobbyist, maybe you got them from a store, something like that. Regardless of where they came from, I would contact and find out what's going on. You definitely could have a situation like you got fish from somewhere where the water parameters are just wildly different than yours, and you could have dumped them in there. That could have definitely been an issue. So first I would contact where you got them to find out what was going on. As far as a quarantine tank goes, okay, and this is going to sound critical. I don't mean it to sound critical, but if I get fish in, I quarantine them in individual groups. Like if I got neons in, I would quarantine neons in one tank. If I got rainbows in, I would quarantine them in one tank. If I got guppies in, I would, and on and on and on. I understand you're in the spot where you're at right now, so you're going to try and do the best that you can, and I fully appreciate that. If to anybody else that's out there listening, I really only bring in one species at a time so that I can really, I can see what's going on. It becomes very difficult for my brain to be able to try and figure out what's going on with a whole bunch of different kind of fish. And that's just kind of, I mean, honestly, from all the wholesalers and stuff like that I've dealt with over the years, like that's how they do it. So it's like, I'm just going to emulate that behavior as best I can, just to keep them all kind of segregated, find out what's going on with them. And if, like, let's say you got the tetras and the tetras had one issue. I don't know. You brought in something crazy like velvet, right? Like, let's say you brought velvet in and then you mixed all the fish together and then all of the fish now have it. And you're like, uh-oh, which maybe three out of 4 groupings of those fish were all healthy and didn't have anything going on. You may have spread it from these fish to those fish, and now you're going to have to try and deal with all of it. And for me, it just makes it a lot easier if I'm just doing one at a time. Thomas just said he's had issues with Corys before, but I think it was some type of some types that were overbred. They were panda Corys. The next time I'll try wild caughts. Personally, I don't understand why a lot of people think wild caught are hardier fish. I don't know where that came from. Wild caught fish, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinions, if they are not an aquacultured fish, I feel like you have a 90% chance that they're not going to make it living in an aquarium. And it's one of the big reasons that a lot of people aquaculture fish. And a perfect fish that I will utilize as an example for that would be the Mandarin goby. If you guys happen to do a Google search of the Mandarin goby, or if you know exactly if you know exactly what a mandarin goby is, it is one of the most colorful, beautiful. It's like a fish that is a rainbow. It is like the brightest, craziest rainbow pattern fish you've ever seen. It is, yes, it is a saltwater fish. Go easy on me if you're only a freshwater person, because this parallel does follow the line here. Now, the mandarin goby, everybody wants a mandarin goby in their reef tank because they are just the coolest looking fish you've ever seen. But here's one of the big problems. Wild-caught mandarin gobies have a lot of problems living in an aquarium. One of the big reasons for that is they only eat live food in the wild. They essentially only eat copepods and things like that. And if you think about them, just like they're like little fleas in the water. They only want to eat fresh, live food is basically all they want to eat. So they can be adapted to a freshwater aquarium. It does work. Now, here's one of the weird situations. A wild-caught mandarin goby typically only costs $29.99 because the people that go fish them and catch them, it doesn't really cost them any money to go fish and catch them, so they can actually sell them to the wholesalers and then pass them on to people for a much lower price. But the aquacultured mandarin gobies, super easy to keep alive in a fish tank because they were born, raised, and bred in a fish tank. Now, the downside with those is instead of costing $29.99, oftentimes they cost $79.99. And what would end up happening is someone would come in, they would buy a mandarin goby that was a wild-caught mandarin. They would put it into a tank. They didn't have live food for it or enough live food for it for very long. The mandarins have a tendency to eat a lot. They're just kind of always eating. And as time would go by, the mandarin goby would starve, get really skinny, and die, which is sad. It's not cool. So 3-4 months later, same customer come in, my mandarin goby died, which is sad, and I appreciate the sadness of it because it is really lame. And we go, okay, well, it looks like, if they brought the fish in, it almost always was super skinny. It hadn't eaten. And that was almost always why it had died. And we go, okay, well, we've got aquacultured mandarin gobies here. Yes, they are very expensive. They're a lot more expensive, but this is probably going to be the fish for you. It's super hardy. It will probably eat flake food and stuff like that because we've been feeding it flake food. It'd be super easy for you to provide food for it and stuff like that. And then almost 99 times out of 100, they would buy the $29.99 wild-caught one again. Put it in their tank. 3 months later, fish is starved to death again. And by that point in time, then it would be like, we're not selling you another one. Sorry. It's not going to happen. We're not going to sell you another one. And it's like, well, these guys' customer service sucks. It's like, we're giving you advice on what would work better in your system, and you're just killing fish. That's lame. And I'm not saying that Ginger is killing fish. The whole reason for telling that story was to explain that if you can find the availability of some really attractive aquacultured fish, those are going to be the ones that I would always recommend over the wild-caught fish. Wild-caught fish are not really adapted to the tiny environments that we have. They're adapted to these giant... The Earth, man. The Earth is huge. And the parameters on this Earth are way easier for the Earth to maintain than it is for us to maintain in an aquarium. My quarantine tank, I wholeheartedly admit that my quarantine tank is undersized. It's only a 20-gallon aquarium. So if I kind of neglect a water change or something like that, and let's say there's no more ammonia or anything else being added into the tank, but a gallon of water evaporates over like a 3 or 4 day period for whatever reasons, hot out or, whatever. Let's say that's going on. I could, if 1 gallon leaves, a 5% compounding of the water has just happened just from evaporation. And once you start to add up and start to do the math on the parts per million, it's like, oh, whoa, my my nitrate just went from 30 parts per million up to 40 parts per million, and nothing happened. Like, I didn't even feed anything or anything like that. So it very much is something to take into consideration with the quarantine and stuff, to try and segregate everybody, to consider the options of aquacultured stuff over the wild caught stuff. We're in the hobby here, and part of the hobby here is to maintain the aquaculture stuff. I honestly feel that way. I really, really do. The Banggai cardinals would be a great example of that. Banggai cardinals are almost 100% extinct in the wild, right? But they are alive and well in the aquarium hobby. I mean, you can go buy Banggai cardinals for like $12.99 or something like that, because they are breeding them, trying to release those back to get those numbers back up. But they are available because they are being bred. So we're, we as hobbyists are essentially keeping alive a whole type of fish that has just been decimated by the crazy stuff that humans are doing. So it's not really that much of a, it's not like really that much of a win necessarily if we're just sort of making up for our mistakes, but it is a good deal. It is a good deal, and I definitely look for aquacultured stuff. And one of the big reasons for that, which initially got me into learning about that kind of stuff, was many years ago when I was freaking out about the fancy shrimps. As you guys know, I'm a huge fan of the fancy shrimps. I was super excited for that, and the reality is that the wild caught shrimp, same deal with the wild caught fish. They just, you put them into a tank and they just couldn't handle a little bit of parameter swing. Whereas even just the next generation of shrimp were like 10 times as bulletproof compared to the wild ones. Micah Carson says, I'm trying to ID a plant. Where's the best place to post a picture for help? As Bentley said, Aquarium group support on Facebook is a good free place. Typically, I would normally go to like the Tom Barr report, or I would just Google search images and just kind of go back that way. And just kind of, which is kind of a lame way to go about it, but it may or may not take longer. I don't know. It might take a long time. Daniel's keeping fish as gots to go. We'll watch the rest later. I know it's Halloween. There are a lot of people like headed out, man. You gotta go, trick or treat or whatever. So let me catch up. Hopefully I answered Ginger's question, but as far as what's going on with Ginger's question here, I would do ICAX, general cure, that kind of stuff through the quarantine. What's the other one I'm forgetting right now? Erythromycin. So that's probably kanamycin wherever you're at. I would just keep going that route. Do your water changes, and just kind of hope for the best. It's going to be the best thing that you could do at this point, is just try and quarantine everybody in there and get them healthy. Do not freak out and move them to the display tank, because whatever is going on with them will not be helped by doing that. So I would just keep going the route that you're going and keep working that way. And as Bentley says, keep going, doing a series of water changes, like 30% today, 30% per day to get the salt content out of the water. I would definitely just, if you have a bunch of salts or anything like that in that water, I would just really consider just fresh water changes. Keep them well fed, feed them good food, bloodworms, blackworms, something like that. Just a nice, a hearty, easy digestible food, so that, everybody in there has a chance to feed, and then do your water changes and just keep going that route. That's really going to be like just kind of the only way to really go. Valerie says to hit the thumbs up button. And Candy, how was your week? How was Candy's week? She has returned from Hawaii. Speaking of weeks, you guys will notice that I was not here on Monday, and I didn't even get any, man, you know what? I didn't even get any emails about it or anything like that. People are just like, yeah, whatever. They're like, yeah, whatever, right? But I wasn't here on Monday, as you guys know. I have a jobs, and I got to work, and Monday turned into a work day. And, yeah, as you guys know, I have to work to make money so that we can keep this on board here. Although I say that, there are a ton of awesome people that are helping with funding the projects and stuff that are going on here. I don't ever want to sound ungrateful, because I'm always astounded by the currently 287 people who help Patreon to produce these videos, the shows, all that kind of stuff. I'm always astounded by it. If you guys are confused what the Patreon is, it's a crowd. We crowdsource some money in order to get projects, like being able to bring you videos of like Brian's Fish Room, like Dan's Fish Room. We actually have more videos coming out that are of some more tours and things like that. If you guys remember, we went to Europe. Actually got to show you guys behind the scenes some of the European wholesalers like Dietzenbach and Aquarium Glazer. There's a lot that's going in here, and you guys are definitely making it possible. I hope I miss some days, because, if a job like that comes up, I'm like, I realistically got to think, all right, that's more money in the bank so that we can make more YouTube videos. I think it was one of the funniest things that happened when I was at the Aquatic Experience is we were actually having a conversation with a local businessman and fish keeper, right? And he was like, I'm really interested in some of the breakdown of the financials and stuff. And it was like Corey and I were talking with them, and it was like, well, if you're to utilize Corey's, I'll let Corey tell you guys the story of his financial stuff or whatever. Even though that's kind of surprising, I'll let him tell you guys that story. But we were basically like breaking down some of the financials for me on my end, and he was really shocked that it was like, oh yeah, I have to work so that I can make YouTube videos. Like, I literally have to like work so I can make money so I can make YouTube videos. And he was like, what? It was really funny. Like, it was definitely that East Coast reaction. You know what I mean? That East Coast reaction of like, what? Why would you even do it? Why would you even bother? Like, what? Get out of there. But I had to tell him, I basically had to break it down for him and be like, it's the community. The community is the key. I love being able to come out here and talk to you guys and stuff like that. That's the whole reason I do it, is that kind of stuff. And because of the Patreon people, we've been able to, we've basically been able to, actually fund some of this stuff, being able to go to New Jersey and stuff like that. Valerie Van Zyl says, are you doing what Corey is going to do? I'm confused. I'll be a little bit confused by that question. I'm going to guess that it has to do with Corey shutting down his Patreon. Now, I think people are a little bit confused as to why Corey is breaking down his Patreon. I know that he talked about it in his live stream just a little bit ago. He just did one, and I think he'll be doing another live stream tonight in a couple of hours. So if you guys want to pop on, ask him some Halloween questions, that kind of stuff. I'm sure it might be something that he talks about, because today's the last day of the month, which that's when Patreon starts to get the charges. And as you guys know, Patreon is a once a month charge situation. So you can be as low as $1 a month if you're like, hey man, I only have $1 and once a month. You're like, that works for me. And I'll be like, hey, that's awesome. I appreciate it. Corey is shutting down his Patreon because, and he's mentioned this on his thing, he's making enough money already. So he's literally just like, hey, he's got enough money coming in. He doesn't need a Patreon. So that's why he's shutting his down. He's doing well enough. He's like, hey, man, I'm doing well. I'm doing fine. So he doesn't really need to fund anything. So he's actually shutting it down. I don't know if he's going to ever turn it off or whatever. I'm not sure what he's doing. But he literally came out on his live stream and was like, look, I'm toning down the Patreon stuff because I don't need to fund anything. So that's the reason why he's like kind of breaking away from having done that. I'm certainly not leaving Patreon. I pretty much have been a Patreon guy since, like, I don't know, kind of day one with those guys. So, and it really is like, it really has been a really a game changer, you know. And I also feel like the community posts is slowly but surely turning into a spot where a lot of people are starting to engage with. And like I said, I know there's only 287 people on there, but it definitely is feeling like it's kind of cool. Like there are people starting to help each other out and doing things on there. And speaking of the devil, like, why don't we just go over here? Do I get the thing wrong? What did I do? Nope. That's not the right one. What about this one? Why is it weird like that? Oh, hold on. I got to change this whole thing. Window region. I don't know why it's doing that, but it's being weird. We have to make a new one. I have to scoot over here, though. I have to, like, manually scoot over. You guys. Let me get screen capture. There we go. Now we're going to actually highlight the page here and make sure we get everything in. Oh, Annette, why don't you just automatically size it to the way that my imagination thinks it should be? There we go. Okay. And maybe I can... oh, the whiteboard's active! Oh, man. That's wild. Okay, turn off the whiteboard for a second. Let's scoot this over here so I don't have to... like, sit in a weird spot. There we go. Yeah, uh-huh. Check this out. We've got technology for days, and that's thanks to the Patreon people. I don't think I would have even been able to get this webcam if it wasn't for the Patreon people. I was really, like, struggling with the old crummy webcam, but we're doing well. Everything's going fine here. We're just gonna keep rolling along, having a little fun on a Halloween. It's got to be a little spooky, right? Spooky. So, but we do have a post from Kelly Preston. It says, irony, Joel says you can't stop cherry shrimp from breeding while talking about your photo moments before you notice one buried. I need to get a macro lens for your phone. Really not happy with the sharpness right now. Hey, I understand that. You guys know I'm still saving to try and get a better macro lens, but someday I'll have that super sharp macro action, but it's an ongoing deal. And to be brutally honest with you, I was hanging out with Jimmy the other day, and he was showing me the new gimbal that has come out, and I've never been jealous of anybody's gimbal until I seen Zion, however you say it, is coming out with a new gimbal that looks like I would actually be able to utilize it. And then we went and looked at the price, and it was like $600. It's like, yeah, that might as well, I don't know, you might as well just ask for a whole bunch of gold bars, because I don't have those either. But I am super excited to maybe borrow Jimmy's and, you know, give it a shot. Give it a shot. Let's see. Dan Squire's asking, is there a Patreon app? Jake Hussey says yes. Oh, cool. Hey, Dan. Let's see. Jake says, cannot post photos to it from the cellular device, though. Have to use the web browser from your phone to post the photos. Yes, that has been an ongoing question that has been popping up. You have to open the web browser on your phone and go to Patreon to be able to post the photos. So it is a bit of an extra step. I'm not sure why that is an issue with Patreon, other than when I was at the frequently asked questions of why does it do that, they're like, well, there's so many cell phones to program constantly, so it is apparently an ongoing issue for them to get all of them to work right, because it would be kind of ridiculous, like if 50% of the cell phones worked, or all of them have to go to a desktop and then all of them would work. So I don't know. I'm not much of a computer programmer myself, so I just have to kind of take those at face value and just be like, okay, yeah, that's your problem. I get it. But Kelly Peterson, is pretty ironic that cherry shrimp are breeding. They're always breeding. You can't stop them from breeding. They're always having babies. Remember, shrimp are food out there in the wild, and they're going to be breeding. They're going to be breeding like crazy. As you guys may or may not know, it is Halloween. It is not quite dark here yet, but I will tell you, we are getting into the depths of, winter is coming, and it is going to be brutal. I could tell already, because it's dark. It's getting dark out. I had to turn on an extra light today to make sure it was light enough, because typically I open a window over there, like just open the curtains, and there's like a little natural light comes in, like a little natural from the power of the sun. But me living up here in the north, there just ain't going to be no light for months on end. So it's kind of an eye-opener when, like, Halloween comes around and you're like, oh, yeah, it's dark at 4:30. Yep. And it's going to be like that for a long time. As people are mentioning, daylight savings is this weekend, which is great for the morning commute. It's going to be lighter out during the morning, but it's just going to be getting dark out even an hour earlier. And it's sort of it's one of the things that kind of cracks me up about the winter here, is that when you get up in the winter and you go to work, it's dark out, and then you work all day, and then by the time you go home, it's dark out again. So it's a little bit weird, but that's them's the breaks. Anyhow, Catherine Bryan literally is talking about on here picks. I can't figure out how to post any picks, any suggestions, and then we've got some follow-ups down here that you do have to go to the desktop, and then boom, immediately followed by Catherine figured it out, and it's working good. We've got this aquarium right here, which I don't have the dimensions on this. It does look like maybe a 10-gallon. I don't know. I'm not getting great at guesstimating. I'm getting worse and worse as time goes by at guesstimating glass aquariums just from pictures. Maybe it's a 20. I don't know. We don't have any dimensions on this one either, but I do like the fact that every time I see one of her aquariums here, they have like a decent substrate and decent things going on. I wouldn't say, like, I guess it would be rude for me to be like, well, these aren't super experienced expert tanks, but this one has a Buddha in it and a crazy sword, which I never see swords that much anymore because I don't have any sword plants because they will annihilate my tanks, and I appreciate that. And you got some beautiful rainbows in here. The fish all look healthy, but I do like the progress here that is going on. This is definitely all going in the right direction. I don't know about the placement of this heater and the sponge filter here, but from seeing your other aquariums, you will be rounding that out, I am sure, because like this tank right here, oh, we've got all the fixins happening, So I'm liking it. I'm digging it. I mean, I wouldn't call them like the expert tanks, but look at how healthy these fish are. And the Buddha smiling. If you got the Buddha smiling in the background, I'm always pretty much happy with that. And so this one actually is a 75-gallon. The Celebration Rainbows. I thought those were Millennium Rainbows, but I don't know. I'm always the worst at naming rainbows and stuff. I'm definitely not a rainbow expert. I've seen lots of rainbows. I've been around lots of rainbows in my day, but I would not consider myself a rainbow expert. I'm I really like them, but I'm pretty much an idiot when it comes to them. I don't know why. Achilles heel or something like that. Karen she reposted these this one with the actual breakdown. So this is a 29 gallon. See, it's deceptive. It's deceptive when you're like trying to figure out from a picture, like, is that a 10 gallon? Is that a 20 gallon? Oh, it's a 29 gallon. Oh man. But she's got the Fluval 3.0 lights that really blow, as she says, the Fluval 3.0 lights really blow me away. I do have to admit, you guys, I am very happy with the Fluval 3.0 lights. I'm very satisfied with how they work, with the aesthetics of them. You know, I'm happy with the app. I think a lot of people are unhappy with the fact that if you do have a power outage, it doesn't save the settings. Now, I will remind people that it does save the settings in the app. The only thing you have to do is reopen the app to connect the lights. I don't think that that's really a big deal in my book because I live in America and there very rarely is there power outages here. So I wouldn't call that anything inconvenient for me. And realistically, opening an app on my phone, that's really not that big of a deal. Manual light timers, if the power goes out, you'll have to go reset them anyhow. Like if the power went out for 4 hours, your lights are going to be off by 4 hours because oftentimes the manual light timers, they ain't still going because there ain't nothing to make them right. So those will have to be fixed too. But you know, as far as I'm concerned, opening an app is way easier. And I do have the Fluval 3.0 reef lights on my reef, and I'm excited to make that video. That one's coming along. I don't know. I feel dissatisfied with my reef tank, so I've just been kind of dragging my heels on making that video. So I don't know. Luke Locken chiming in with the just went to my first fish club auction, had a blast. And while I got some okay deals on fish, this was the best deal by far. I got this Anubias for $7. I would remind everybody out there, go to your local fish club, especially if they have an auction, and stay till the end. I encourage anybody out there, stay till the end, unless you're at the Greater Seattle Aquarium Society auction and I'm there. If I'm there, just go home. Because I want to get some good deals too. You know what I mean. You know what I'm talking about. I would encourage you guys to definitely go to your local club meetings, and you'll find crazy deals like this, especially when, if you kind of stay during the auction, you definitely can get some good deals on stuff. And more often than not, at least a portion of the proceeds goes to your local fish club. So it's like a double whammy of good stuff, you know? Like, the AGA. Oh, you guys, don't let me forget about the AGA today. Remind me. Remind me about the AGA because they actually released the update for the convention next year, which is, I'm excited. I'm super excited. Preston John, a.k.a. Melting in Arizona, who, by the way, is a brand new patronizer, if you guys don't know. He's a brand new patronizer, and on top of it, going to be meeting Mr. Preston in person, right? Which is going to be super cool. I can't tell you why. I really want to tell you why, but I can't tell you why. I really, really, really want to tell you guys why, but I can't tell you why. Oh, man. I really want to tell you, but I can't. I really want to tell you, but I can't tell you because it's Halloween, and it would spoil the surprise. Why is my phone blowing up? Oh. Hold on. Who's this? Oh, my lovely future wife is on her way. The future wife is on her way. Which is good. The lovely Vicky Toria is on her way. Oh my gosh, it's already 4:20, you guys. It's getting wild out in here. Dan Squires just posted the baby registry and the Fluval 3.0. If you're wondering what the Fluval 3.0 Lite is, that is a great link right there. Click through that. Go check that out. I think it takes you to the Aquarium Co-op. If you don't know what the Aquarium Co-op is, boy, what I've been saying recently is that you live under a rock, or maybe you don't actually like fish tanks or anything like that, which would be weird to me that you would even be here listening to me talk about fish tanks if that's the case. But maybe you just like the secret sounds of my yammering and it puts you to sleep, because this has been utilized as a sleep aid for a lot of people out there over the years. That's probably the most common strange comment I've received from having done this show. People are like, man, I just put this on and you talk me right to sleep. It's that boring. I just fall asleep, which is great. But Preston, a brand new patronizer from Arizona, is asking, when is your baby due? My baby, our baby is due in 2 weeks, my guys. 2 weeks' time, the baby is due, and boy howdy, my life is going to change, just so everybody knows. Everybody been telling me my life's going to change. My life's going to change. My life's gonna change, my life's gonna change. There's gonna be a thing, and it's gonna be a changing. Diaper time. Alyssa Bentley throwing down. I was carving a pumpkin this weekend, and as I was just about to toss the trims into the compost, I thought, do bristle nose like pumpkin? Answer, yes, for sure, 100%. Mind you, they just had about 1/3 of a can of French cut green beans before I dropped this in. I imagine there's going to be ropey poop all over the place. Speaking of diaper changing, you could do some diaper changing in your aquarium, right? And now I have more pumpkin pieces in the freezer for occasional treats. 100% I would recommend pumpkin as always a great source of food for vegetarian type fishes that love them veggies, like the squash, like the zucchinis and stuff like that. Hey, pumpkin is a squash, so yeah, they love that stuff. A lot of great sugars in there and little vitamins, and boy howdy, they kind of go buck wild, digging the pineapple. Kelly Peterson throwing down another post, says, after I kicked the bladder and ram's horn snails out of the tank I co-opted for my new cherry shrimp, I had to come up with some new digs for them. They're now happy living in a pair of large drink dispensers, which I think of as a pathway to easier water changes. This is a great idea. You know what? It's never occurred to me to put a tap, right? It's never occurred to me to put a tap in the side of the tank for water changes. But it's kind of sparked an idea. This may or may not have sparked an idea that I might have to do at some point in time. Because I could probably try this out on, like, my quarantine tank. Like, I could just drill a bulkhead and put a spout in there and see how it goes. You know? We'll see how it goes. But it never... I haven't really sparked this idea up until this post that I was like, wait a minute, you could just put a spout in the side of an aquarium. So, hats off, Kelly. You've either inspired me with a great idea or something that's going to be a disaster, which I think ultimately is just as entertaining for you guys. If things just catch on fire and blow up, I think that's probably pretty good. Johnny Zelaya throwing down a great picture of his 30-gallon cube, saying it needs some trimming. And you're right, it does need a little bit of trimming, but don't distress. It looks darn good. I'm a little envious of your ability to keep the sand area down here looking nice and fresh. I do have some ideas on the new aquariums that are going in with some sand areas. I got some ideas. It may have something to do with this foam right here. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Oh. Oy. Oye, como va? Hold on a second. What is this? What is going on here? What? Is it the actual David? Well, I don't know. Somebody wanted to be my friend on Facebook, but it wasn't real. I think it was a mystery. I think it was a secret mystery. I think it was a troll. Johnny Zelaya, I'm loving this tank. There is a little bit of trimming. You just have to trim some of that pearl weed. I can't really tell what else is going on 100% in this tank, but it just needs a little bit of trimming. But like I said, I'm digging your sand, so I wouldn't stress too much. Johnny posting another one of his tanks. The cube needs some trimming. I don't know. I don't think this is the cube, but either way, definitely got some good lilies, some alternate thera in there. Java ferns, of course, one of my favorites of all time, and everything looking pretty darn healthy in there. Fish looking good. We got a little quarantine situation over here. Maybe he's breeding these betas. I'm not 100%, but or not a quarantine, but a fish box. We got a little fish box situation going on here. I'd like to know if you're breeding some betas. If that's what you're doing, I would like to be knowing if that's what's going on. Steve Horton, what's up, my man? Throwing down a post on Halloween. Says his 15 or 16, I can't remember, old silver dollar fish. That is crazy. You got a 15 or 16-year-old fish that you have had that long. Congrats. That is awesome. That really is, like, super awesome. I'm envious. I'm envious of that situation. I wish I had like a 15-year-old fish. I don't. Maybe someday I'll be like, oh man, I've had this little Stevesy with me for a real long time. I don't know. We'll see. All right, let's catch up with the chat here a little bit. Micah Carson just posted pictures on Fishlore, and I'm waiting to be accepted to the Facebook group. I can't help you with either of those. I'm not a moderator on either. Thomas M., I love my 3.0 and 2.0. I just wish they made risers. I don't want to hang them, but I'd like to raise them. I did. Oh, excuse me. Wrong pipe. Where were those risers that I saw? Somebody had pointed out some acrylic risers to me. Yeah, darn. I wish I had something that I'll have to find those risers at some point in time, but they were like these little acrylic risers that looked like they would perfectly okay, let me start over. I'm sounding like an idiot. There were little acrylic risers that did hook on to a glass aquarium. They'd go right under those. The only problem was it looked like they would go on a rimless aquarium. So I have to find something that is going to work with either the acrylic mount or a rimmed glass aquarium. And I've currently been looking for something that is mass produced. I could easily either make something myself or get it made if I really wanted it. It's something that I could probably get made but it's obviously going to cost a lot of money. So I've been trying to find something that is, accommodating price-wise, but, yeah, I mean, just something that looks nice that will also do that, I would consider. That's definitely something I got to consider. Frank. Bye, Frank. Wait, where's Frank going? Frank Dominguez says, bye, Candy. Oh, Candy's got to go, I guess. Got to go trick or treating. Ooh, take a Caleb out. And go get some candy. I know you guys I'm sure you guys had a great time in Hawaii. I was definitely checking out those videos and stuff. So awesome to see you guys getting a chance to go kick it in Hawaii. I recommend a trip to every person on the planet should go to Hawaii for a week in their life. They just really should. I'm not saying you got to move there. I'm not saying you got to move there. I'm not saying you got to live there or anything like that, but definitely take a week, go to Hawaii. It is well worth it. You definitely got to experience it. It's just a very unique part of the world, and I'm happy that you and Caleb were able to go out there and relax, and I hope it was everything that it was made up to be. Let's see. Ken M.A. says, I personally hopped on the Patreon more frequently recently. Right on. I definitely dig it. Thanks for popping on to the Patreon. That's one of those things, like, I get it. There are certain people out there that have been directly and indirectly upset at me for whether I either talk about the Patreon or I have like a commercial during my hour and a half, 2 hour long show here where I'm like, hey, let me explain the Patreon to you. A lot of people have directly or indirectly been upset with me. But, you know, apologies to people that are super upset, but I'm not, no. I mean, we all have a plan to do bigger and better projects. And how are we going to get to bigger and better projects if there isn't more than one person doing it, and this has been a hard time of year for a lot of people. And so we have been, we've been losing some patronizers, and that's okay because most of the people have, they've like let me know, it's like, oh man, I had to switch jobs. I had to do this. I had to do that. And, it's no hard feelings towards anyone in that situation. It's definitely just some people have had to put it on hold. But, to the people out there that are super upset that I have a Patreon and I talk about it, I don't know. Just go find something else to do. I don't like if you're upset about it, like you could totally just go find like a whole completely different thing to do with your day, there are a lot of people that just watch the show and just hit the like button and that kind of stuff. And hey, props to you guys too. Everybody supports in their way and everybody's a part of the community in their way. And, I appreciate everybody that's on there, and I appreciate everybody that's here. I don't know how else to say that. Benjamin says, people are ridiculous. If that bothers you, life must be real good. Just saying. Yeah, well, people are ridiculous. That's for sure. Ryan Brown's late to the party. Why are people upset this week? I don't know. It's always the same nonsense. It's nothing to really worry about. Jason Ambo says, what are some good tank mates for Congo Tetras? Congo Tetras I would probably keep with something that's sizable. And Thomas just said, CNH just said rainbows. Yep, rainbows are good size, good something that can kind of defend themselves. But personally, if I was going to do Congo Tetras, I would consider, some plecos or something like that can kind of handle not being concerned about other fish, like bristlenose, plecos just don't care. Like if there's other fish around, it's pretty rare that even a bristlenose pleco gets eaten by a predatorial type fish. But if I had Congo Tetras, I would be, honestly, I would be focusing on growing a bigger school and them to grow really big. So I wouldn't want to have a lot of fish in there that were being super competitive with them. And, my reason for saying that is we were down in San Francisco. I got an opportunity to look at a Congo Tetra tank that was just literally a planted aquarium with just tons of Congo Tetras in it that were super healthy, super big. And, I mean, there was like ram's horn, snails, and some other little goodies that were in there and stuff. But I was just like, man, that is just an impressive tank, like with just Congo Tetras, you know what I mean? So that was really cool. And, personally, if I was going to set up that tank, I would really go that route. Is just how can I add more? How would I definitely just keep these all growing and getting bigger and stuff like that. Excuse me. I think that coffee went into my lungs. Valerie says, well, I would like to thank you in person for your YouTube time. I just listened to you and when you are on, thank you very much for your knowledge. Well, hey, I don't know everything, but I try to help people with, my experience and always being around and always just kind of being in a aquarium spaz and doing all the stuff that I like to do. I try to help everybody out. Jason says, okay, that does sound pretty cool. Yeah, that's what personally, that's what I'd be doing. Even if in like the 240s, you guys know I have like all the rummy nose in there. I'm probably just going to keep adding rummy nose to it. I'm probably just going to order like 200 or 300 more, quarantine those, and then add those in and just keep like jumping up the number of rummy nose tetras on there until it's like, I don't know how many there's in here. It's crazy, So that is the long-term plan. And the bristlenose in there are breeding. I have seen a bunch of babies just showing up, a bunch of little adolescent bristlenose just cruising around. So I'm pretty happy with the stocking in there. The apistos are in there. They just spend a lot of time hiding out. So I wish I could film them and get you guys some action shots of the pistogramas that are in there, but they just like to hide out. There's like too many caves and stuff, so they're just chilling until food drops in there, and then they're like, "Hey, man, did you guys just drop some food in here? Let me take that, and I'm gonna go back there and feed everybody else." So they're a little bit of characters, but their coloring and everything looks fantastic. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Maybe the colony will get so robust eventually that that it'll have to be out in the open. I don't know, and I'll be able to film them easier. Sean Krieb says, like and share. I can't afford to patronize. Plus, the exchange rate from Australia would be like 50 cents to the dollar. Yeah. So yeah, Sean. Like I said, it's never. I'm never like upset if people don't patronize. I mean, I'm super. It's super awesome that people even show up to like, watch and talk and chat and all that kind of stuff. I think that's totally awesome. I just don't ever want to downplay or diminish the contributions of the patronizers and stuff. So everybody's contributing the way that they can. I do patronize a couple of people. Oh gosh, what's his name? I want to feature him for a second. Where did my where'd my thing go? There's like a button where I can just go to my. Where is that? Uh-oh. Man, you figure that I'd be a little bit faster at that, but I don't think. Where is it? Maybe it's over here. Oh, it's on the. Oh, here it is. I'm sorry, I was on the wrong side. Like a dork. Fish for Thought. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Fish for Thought's YouTube channel or his Patreon page or anything like that. And let me get his page here. Paste. There. So there's Fish for Thought. Here's one of the guys that I patronize. He's out of Portland. He makes some really good fish tank videos. I really, really enjoy him. I really enjoy his work. I really enjoy his editing. It's really good. And if you guys wanted to go down a rabbit hole, I think he's probably got about 50, 60 videos or something like that. They're all pretty short, though, so you definitely will end up like binge watching him for sure. So, and they're pretty engaging. But I would definitely check that out. Amish Catfish says, Patron. I don't know. Maybe he's partying. I don't know. Let's see. Benjamin P. Weird kids you got there. Oh, wait, what happened there? All right. Thomas M says, Joel, your live streams are great. Thanks. I'm usually at work, but the chat is nice and the people here are great. Yeah, that's kind of one of those things. You can always watch the replay, that kind of stuff. Always leave comments, complaints, any of that kind of stuff. I also do have an email if anybody ever has a pressing question. That is joel@darkstararts.com. And that's an easy way to get a hold of me if you're like, oh, man, what's up? And to be really honest with you, I have this crazy thread going with Jason Rayburn that is somehow like every time we email each other is like 40-page novel. I don't understand. It is pretty fun. That is just through email. So I do my best to reply to everybody's email, and sometimes I screw it up. And I wanted to take a second to admit that I forgot to reply to Morgan Newby, who had sent me an email about magnets. Morgan is a dude, not a girl. And I forgot to email him back. I don't know why, but he sent me an email about magnets. And I totally forgot to send an email back to him. And I'm here to admit it. I forgot. I do my best to reply to all the emails I get. Sometimes, to be honest, sometimes I get the email and I'm like out somewhere and I read it and I don't have time to like get back because typing on my phone sucks and I'm a million years old. But I forgot to get back to Morgan, and you know, my apologies. But I do my best to reply to everything. I miss stuff though. That's for sure. Thomas says YouTube has become my Netflix. I agree to a certain percentage on that. I still have Netflix for sure. I have Netflix and Amazon are the two like TV services that I have. Just because Amazon has some good shows that I like to watch, and Netflix also. And well, I don't really. The only portion that I pay for Amazon TV stuff is HBO. That's the only thing, because I like John Oliver's show, and it's pretty much the John Oliver and like Game of Thrones and a couple other things. Pretty much the only stuff I watch on HBO. But you know, Jake Hussey is lucky he is down in New Zealand, and he's the other New Zealand guy wherever Gillette went. Gillette, Joel. Where's the other Joel? He left. But as you guys know, Jake and Joel are the two people who live in New Zealand. And they're getting very excited for the oncoming summer down there. They're probably going to do some barbecuing and you know, hikes up into the mountains and just taking in the majesty of the beauty that is down there. Oh, Kiwi Mamo. Oh crap! There's 3 people that live in New Zealand now. Oh no. Here's one of the things I thought was super funny. Turns out Christmas, everybody goes to the beach and has a giant barbecue during Christmas in New Zealand, which I thought was totally crazy. I thought that was wild. And everybody in New Zealand's like, you're ridiculous. That's exactly what we do. Of course, it's Christmas. That's what you do on Christmas. And I'm like, what? No, you don't. It's snowing out. Yeah, Kiwi Mamo, Gillett, and Jake Hussey. I would say all you guys need to share this out in New Zealand, because someday I would love to come to New Zealand. And how are we going to do that if we don't have a lot of fans in New Zealand? I wonder how many people are actually in New Zealand. Population. Oh my gatos. You guys are up to a blistering 4.794 million people. Wow. Hold on. I got to check this out. There we go. Yeah, there's more people in my state. Yeah, realistically, there are more people in my state than in all of New Zealand. So, I don't think it's a big feat to share it around in New Zealand. It should be pretty easy to share it around, because it would just be like sharing it in the state that I live in. Pretty easy. We just have to get all of the people in New Zealand to become big super fans, and then we'll be able to fly out there and do some kind of live stream. We'll do a live show from New Zealand. It would be awesome. Thomas M. says, I dream about visiting Green Aqua, but that's never happening. You never know. You really never know. I never thought I would be able to... I never thought I would visit an aquarium store in Austria either. Or Hungary, sorry. Well, I did visit in Austria also, but I never thought I'd be able to go to Hungary and visit an aquarium store. I never thought that would happen, and yet it did. So don't despair. You never know. You never know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know. All we know is what's happening right now. Just do the best job we can right now, And then it probably leads to better things in the future or something. I don't know. Platitudes. Platitudes! Right? Swamp Tao says, New Zealand is a tad bigger than Washington, though. Oh, we better check this out. New Zealand. Area. There it is. All right. State area. And I hit W on accident. There we go. Okay, so Washington is 71,362 square miles. New Zealand is 103,483 square miles. So, yeah, but if we just, I mean, if I add Idaho in or Oregon, I would say New Zealand is about the exact same size as Oregon. Yeah, because Oregon's about 100. Wait, no, Oregon is smaller. That's square kilometers? What is that? Oh, 98,000 square miles. Okay. All right. I don't know. It's not that much. I mean, I would say that, like, New Zealand is not that much bigger than the state I live in, though. All right. Well, either way. I don't know. Definitely trailed off. What candy are we giving out from Greg Jones? What's up, my guy? What candy are you giving out? Also, what's your favorite candy? Oh, man, I don't know what my favorite candy is. I don't know. But we have Skittles, we have Whoppers, we have Kit Kat, we have peanut butter cups, unless I ate them all. Maybe peanut butter cups. It's up there. I like dark chocolate. Dark chocolate and peanut butter are my two favorite things, basically. You have anything like that going on, like if you have dark chocolate with mint, I'm like, ooh. If you have like dark chocolate with peanut butter, I'm like, ooh. If you have peanut butter with, I don't know, some peanut butter thing, I don't know. I love all that stuff. I do have a big time sweet tooth. You guys know that I like to eat candy, and I mean, I'll have a little bit of candy. I can't eat very much candy. I get real tired of it very quickly, but I really like ice cream. And I don't know how I even managed to save some ice cream, you know. Swamp Town says you're comparing our square-shaped state to basically Florida. Yeah, I'll agree. Yeah, I mean, I'll agree with that. I was just going on basic landmass, but you know, Washington State is probably a lot like New Zealand because we have the High Plains Desert on the eastern Washington. We have the mountain range through the middle. We have all this big portion that's down here by the water. We have another mountain range that's across the water up on the Olympic Peninsula. We also have some rainforest here in Washington. So we have a lot of the same kind of thing that's going on in New Zealand, where we have tons of the microclimates. So, you know. Have I tried Acme ice cream out of Acme, Washington? Maybe. I don't know. Couldn't say yes or no. Gene Tesk is here. Forgot to buy candy. Guess I'm hiding in my house in the dark tonight. Yeah, for sure. You're going to be stuck in the dark. Those kids are going to kick the door in. Jake Hussey says South Island has beautiful scenery. I'm in Napier, east coast of the northern island. Oh. So maybe it's not that great. I don't know. All right, guys, I got to get rolling. I got to go kind of clean up my mess from today and get a few things rocking and rolling and get the dinner ready for Victoria. So, and got to get some candy ready because it's getting dark out here and kids are going to kick my door in if I don't have them candy. Quickly at the end, Michael Alger is asking, hey, Joel, thinking about self-cloning crayfish for Oscar food. Do you think a 33 long would be big enough to sustain a colony? Yes, self-cloning crayfish will do fine in a 33. I used to have them in a 40 breeder, you know, basically the same tank. It's really not that far off. But yeah, just maintain it as a colony. Make sure to do your water changes and feed a lot for the self-cloning because they run through a lot of food. But a lot of water changes, a lot of food, and they will do great. Maybe look into the Shrimp King food. As far as I could tell, that seems to be the most beneficial and most readily available would be that one. So anyhow, everybody have a fantastic Halloween out there. Stay safe. Don't steal any packages off anybody's porch, which of course you already know, but that happened. So that's my first world problem of the day. Don't do any burnouts in an uncontrolled intersection. Don't light off any fireworks in your living room. You know what I mean? Just keep it safe. It's Halloween. Don't go crazy out there. You know, maybe stay inside. Maybe watch a little. Maybe watch some Netflix and chill or something. I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. All right. Later.